Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alina. We will go ahead and start today's webinar. My name is Alina Patatanian, and I'm here with my colleagues, Ronnie Manuki and Yorelis Talavera, and we are here from the CBA. Welcome to the webinar where we will be covering 4 LA County ordinances, the Santa Monica Minimum Wage Ordinance, and Yari will provide some information on the Financial Navigators Program. The purpose of this webinar is to ensure if you are a worker, you learn about your rights when it comes to these ordinances. If you are a business owner, you know your responsibilities towards your employees. And at the conclusion, we will answer any questions that you might have. And you can, during the webinar, you can write your question in the chat box. Please make sure your microphone is muted. Today's webinar will be recorded and available on our YouTube page. First, we will start off with the recent urgency ordinance that was passed on November 24, and I will turn it over to Ronnie, who will introduce you to the ordinance. Ronnie?
Hi, everyone. How you doing? My name is Ronnie Manuki, and I'm an investigator for the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs from LA County. So first, we will cover a recent and urgency ordinance that was passed on November 24th. Since March 16, 2020, the health officer has issued and continues to issue a number of COVID-19 related health officer orders to address the increasing and imminent threat to the public health and safety as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, prohibiting retaliation against employees who report or discuss non-compliance with the COVID-19 related health officer orders. Will both promote the reporting of such non-compliance and allow the county to more quickly address the spread of COVID-19. The ordinance encourages workers to also report public health violations without the fear of being retaliated against. Get the next slide, please. One more, please. So what is considered retaliation? Retaliation is any change or adverse action taken against a worker from the employer. Some examples include termination, demotion, pay reduction, and etc. The ordinance will apply county-wise, except for cities such as Long Beach and Pasadena. The reason is that those cities have their own health officers. So any city that has its own health officer is not covered under this ordinance. These links that you see below that are highlighted in orange can be used to determine jurisdiction and make sure that businesses do not fall under those cities that have their own health officers. So the next step would be to identify workers and employers to make sure that we know what the definition of each of those things are under this ordinance. A worker under this ordinance is any individual who performs work within the geographic boundaries of Los Angeles County, except the cities that we spoke about, like Pasadena and Long Beach, that have their own health officer. Independent contractors, however, volunteers, and government employees are excluded from this ordinance. An employer under this ordinance is any person who directly or indirectly or through an agent or any other person employs any worker or exercises control over the wages, hours, duties, or working conditions of any worker. So if you can submit a complaint by contacting the Department of Consumer Business Affairs. The phone number is going to be 1-800-593-822, as you can see on the screen. Or you can go ahead and email us at NoRetaliation at dcba.lacounty.gov. In addition, you may also submit a complaint to the Department of Public Health and by emailing them at phcouncils@ph.lacounty.gov. So if you have any questions or want to submit any complaint regarding public health retaliation violations, you may do so using the links that you see. As far as investigation of the cases goes, so the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs has been given authority to act as an agent for the Department of Public Health and to investigate and enforce this ordinance. DCBA has only 1 year to issue any findings that an employer has violated the provisions after receiving a specific complaint. So the investigation is time sensitive. So there is a 1 year window in which that DCBA has time to investigate a complaint that we receive regarding an employer. DCBA may issue an administrative citation. Fines can be $10,000 per violation per day. The employer, however, may contest the fines by filing an administrative hearing. Any worker or the county council on behalf of a worker may, within a 3-year window of the employer's last act, bring an action to the Superior Court of the state of California. These workers then can be awarded with being reinstated back to their work, earn damages in a sum of $10,000 per violation or lost pay, whichever one is greater, and also be awarded any punitive damages. The worker or the county council must provide a written notice to the employer for their violations under this ordinance, and then the employer at that moment has a 15-day window to correct the violation upon receiving the written notice. Now I will speak about the new Los Angeles County HeroPay ordinance that was passed on February 26, 2021. This ordinance was passed to help specific frontline workers during these difficult times. The purpose of this ordinance is to pay an extra amount of HeroPay to grocery retail and drug retail workers who are essential workers, face exposure to COVID-19, have low wages, have minimal benefits, and have no luxury of being able to work from home. This ordinance is applicable to grocery or drug retail stores that sell primary food or household goods, or variety of prescription and non-prescription medicine or miscellaneous items. If the store doesn't meet that criteria, the second option would be that the store is 85,000 square feet and dedicates 10% or more of its sales to groceries, or 10% or more of its sales floor to drug retail, and meets all of the following criteria. So the first criteria would be operates at least one retail grocery store, retail drugstore, or large retail store that includes a grocery or drug component to its retail sales in the unincorporated area, either is publicly traded company or employs 300 or more workers nationwide and employs more than 10 employees per store. This ordinance does not apply to public entities such as federal, state, or county, incorporated cities, including schools, and salaried employees who are executives. The ordinance applies to all businesses in the unincorporated Los Angeles County. The links below can be used to verify jurisdiction, just like we saw in the other slide. So this ordinance is only applicable for the unincorporated Los Angeles County. So those three links can be used to verify that. The requirement of the HeroPay is $5 per hour in addition to an employee's base wage. So whatever base hourly an employee earns plus $5. If workers want to receive paid leave instead of earning that the $5 HeroPay, they must put that in writing. If an employer has been paying hazard pay before this ordinance, they would get credit towards the HeroPay. The ordinance requires covered employers to include information about the HeroPay on the pay statement for each employee. These requirements are the hourly rate of HeroPay or voluntarily hazard pay the employer is providing, the amount of HeroPay, paid leave, and voluntarily hazard pay, and the number of hours worked that entitles the employee for HeroPay. So all these information needs to be on the pay statement for each employee. The Los Angeles County HeroPay ordinance poster must be posted in a conspicuous and a clear area in the workplace. So this ordinance does require a poster to be posted inside of the businesses in a clear area where everyone can see it and have access to the poster. And once again, retaliation is prohibited under this ordinance. DCBA again has been given the authority to investigate the HeroPay complaints, issue wage enforcement order, assess fines, and reinstate employees to the position that they were discharged from. Employees also have a 3-year period to sue the employer in the Superior Court of California for reinstatement, back pay, attorney fees, and etc. So there's a 3-year window in which employees can sue their employer in a court of law. And if you have any questions regarding your HeroPay or want to report a complaint, you can contact 1-800-593-8222, or you can email us at HeroPay@dcba.lacounty.gov. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to pass it to Alina to go over the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now I'm going to present you the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance that became effective of July 1 of 2016. Next slide. So over here on your screen, you are seeing the chart where it explains what the minimum wage was and is currently. If you can see, there are two charts here. One is for 26 or more employees, we call a large employer, and we have 25 or less employees. Again, the minimum wage was passed back in July 2016. Currently, for if you have 26 or more employees, if a business has 26 or more employees, the current minimum wage is $15. And if there's 25 or fewer employees, the minimum wage is $14.25. There will be an increase this July 1st, 2021 for small employers to $15. But the big employers is still going to stay at $15. So both large employers and small employers are going to line up. Beginning July 1st, 2022, the minimum wage will be increased based on a consumer price index, based on the CPI. And also one thing to note is that the minimum wage increases were not delayed due to the COVID-19 emergency. Next slide, Kevin. So under the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance, who is an employee? Basically, who's entitled to be paid the county minimum wage? So there are those employees who perform at least 2 hours of work in a particular week within the unincorporated areas of the Los Angeles County, which includes part-time employees, full-time employees, Any employees that are on probation, training, also employees that work for nonprofit organization, and anyone who's entitled to the state minimum wage. So again, basically, if you work in the unincorporated areas of the county 2 or more hours in a week, then you are entitled to be paid the Los Angeles County minimum wage. Next slide. As I mentioned, an employee has to be working in the unincorporated areas of the county. So what does unincorporated mean? There are areas in LA County where they belong to the county. They don't have their own city hall, they don't have their own city council, city laws. Therefore, they must follow the county guidelines, the county laws. And in order to determine whether your employee, if you're a worker, to see if you work in the unincorporated area of the county, then here are the links where it can be checked. If you need help, you can always contact our office, and our counselors will be happy to check the address for you to see if, again, you're a worker, to see if you're working in the unincorporated LA County area, or if you're a business, if your business is located in the unincorporated area of the county, to ensure if you have to comply by the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance or not. Next slide. One of the requirements that the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance has is the posting requirement. On the picture over here, it's a county minimum wage ordinance poster. It must be posted in a conspicuous place at any workplace or job site located within unincorporated areas of the county. This poster informs the employees of the current minimum wage rate and what rights they have under the ordinance. It's wise to note that if the employer does not have a physical location within the unincorporated areas of the county, then the employer must provide the notice each year to the employees who perform work in the unincorporated areas of the county. And I want to bring an example here for security guards. Let's say you are a security guard. The office is not located in the unincorporated LA County area, but wherever you are sent to perform your work, to perform your security work, it is in the unincorporated. Therefore, your employer must provide a copy each year to you of this notice. And there's an English and Spanish version available on our website. Next slide. The CBA's authority. So when the Los Angeles County minimum wage ordinance passed back in July 2016, the CBA was named the enforcement agency. And therefore, the CBA has authority to enforce the provision of the ordinance, which includes unpaid minimum wage, retaliation, failure to post a poster, failure to allow access to payroll record, and failure to maintain records. So the CBA, these are the things that the CBA can investigate. Next slide. Over here, we will talk about our correction order and wage enforcement order. So let's say if we get a complaint and during the investigation, we find that there might be some violation of the county minimum wage ordinance, then the CBA will issue and serve a correction order to the employer. When we get the records and we do a thorough investigation, and if we find any violations of the county's minimum wage ordinance, the CBA may issue what we call a wage enforcement order. Wage enforcement order is like a citation that is issued to the business where we identify the violations by the employer, and we will assess if there's any back wages owed to the employee, we will note it there. We will assess any fines that could be owed to the county and to the employees. When the employer receives the wage enforcement order, it needs to be posted in a conspicuous place within 24 hours in order for employees to see that there is a wage enforcement order, that there's a citation, and to find out if they are entitled to be paid any back wages or fine. And of course, the employer, if they do not agree with the CBA's findings, they may request a reconsideration and follow through that process to contest the wage enforcement order. This concludes the county's minimum wage ordinance, and now we will move on to the Santa Monica's minimum wage ordinance. So City of Santa Monica has its own minimum wage ordinance, and the City of Santa Monica is contracted with County of LA, with the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, to enforce their ordinance. So the Santa Monica minimum wage ordinance establishes the minimum wage in the City of Santa Monica for employees who perform 2 or more hours of work in a particular week in the boundaries of City of Santa Monica. In this case, it's a little bit easier because it's only City of Santa Monica. There's no unincorporated, but it is wise to check the link here to make sure the job is performed in the City of Santa Monica to see if an employee is entitled to the Santa Monica minimum wage. Next slide. On the screen, again, you're seeing this, the minimum wage rates going back to July 2016. It is the same as the county's minimum wage. Again, they have 2 charts where 26 or more employees and 25 or less employees. And again, currently for smaller employees it's $14.25, large employers it's $15. And then there will be an increase for small employers this July 1st to $15. After that, next year, July 1st to 2022, the minimum wage will go on based on the consumer price index. Next slide. Santa Monica also has a requirement for the poster. So every employer must post in a conspicuous place at any workplace or job site where any employee works a posting by the City of Santa Monica informing them of the minimum wage rate and their rights under this ordinance. Every employer must post that notice in English, Spanish, and any other languages spoken by at least 5% of the employees. Also, there's a requirement in the Santa Monica ordinance that at the time of hire, the employer must provide the employee a written notice, which contains the employer's name, address, and telephone. And this notice, again, it's available on the Santa Monica's website, where every employer for free, they can print it and post it at their job site. Next slide. Santa Monica has also a provision for the hotel minimum wage. So hotel worker is any individual whose primary place of employment is at a hotel and employed by either the hotel directly or someone in contract with the hotel employer. Currently, the hotel minimum wage is $17.13. It'll go up this July 1st, 2021. And again, I want to maybe bring an example as far as who's considered a hotel worker. Again, you can be hired either by the hotel directly or a contract, meaning, let's say you are a gardener, you're a gardening company, a hotel has hired you to do their gardening. So if you work at a hotel premises, then you are considered a hotel worker. So for those hours that you are gardening, that you are working at a hotel, you must be paid the hotel minimum wage. Next slide. Another provision Santa Monica has is the paid sick leave. So employers are required to provide their employees paid sick leave hours. The way it happens, employers can choose to either front load the hours, meaning they can provide the hours in the beginning of the year or at the anniversary of the employee, or they can decide to accrue. If they front load, if they give the all hours at one time, then if a business has 26 or more employees, currently they have to provide at least 72 hours of paid sick leave. If it's a smaller employer, 25 or fewer employees, then the requirement is 40 hours. If the business chooses to do accrual method, the way the accrual is going to happen, every 30 hours work, employer must provide 1 hour of paid sick leave. And here's the poster on the slide. Again, it is required that the poster to be posted at a conspicuous place at a business in Santa Monica. Next, Kevin, thank you. Some of the requirements Santa Monica ordinance has is one of it's record keeping. Every employer must retain payroll records for each employee for no less than 3 years. There's a statute of limitation for any citation that the DCBA and Santa Monica issue or any prosecution. There is a 3 years statute of limitation after the discovery of the violation. And retaliation, which means the employer must not take any adverse action against the person within 90 days of the person's exercising their rights. And just in general, the retaliation is not allowed if the employees again try to exercise their rights, ask for the minimum wage under the ordinance. Next slide. So that's like covered the Santa Monica minimum wage ordinance. Now I want to move on to the new ordinance that it's very new. It's an urgency and temporary ordinance that was passed a couple of weeks ago. It's called Employee Paid Leave for Expanded COVID-19 Vaccine Access Ordinance. So this urgency ordinance requires private employers in the unincorporated areas of the county to provide paid leave for employees to receive COVID-19 vaccine injection. The effective dates of the ordinance retroactively is as of January 1, 2021 up to August 31st, 2021. Next slide. So who is this ordinance applicable to? So it could be a full-time, part-time employee. It cannot be an independent contractor. But there's a lot of misclassification that could happen. So it is the employer's burden to prove us that the employee is an independent contractor, not an employee. If they do not provide a proof, then we will assume that the person is an employee and they are entitled to these hours under this ordinance. The requirement also is that employees must have exhausted all available leave time under the Labor Code Section 248.2, meaning that if under the Labor Code, if they are receiving already paid leave hours, they have to use all their hours before they can qualify for this vaccine hours. And upon request by employer, employees must provide written verification of receipt of the COVID-19 vaccine. So if your employer asks for a proof then you must provide a proof that you received the vaccine. Next slide. So how many hours you are entitled under this ordinance? Full-time employees are given 4 hours per injection. So if you get 2 injections, employees are entitled to 8 hours total in paid leave hours. Again, this is only if you exhausted all your paid leave hours, you have 0 hours on your paycheck and you need to take the vaccine. For part-time employees are given prorated amount of the 4 hours based on their normally scheduled work hours over the 2 weeks preceding the injection. For example, if they work 10 hours in that 2-week period, they get 1 hour of paid leave to take the vaccine. And the paid leave amount that must be paid to the employees is based on the normal rate of pay. If employees' pay rate is $20 an hour, then when they get these hours, they have to be paid at a $20 rate. Next slide. Some additional requirements that is on the ordinance. There's again a poster that must be posted. It'll be available soon on our website where employers can print and post it at their unincorporated business locations. Employer must keep and allow access to accurate and complete payroll records for at least 4 years. Again, there is a retaliatory action that is prohibited, and no one can retaliate against an employee if they try to exercise their rights under the ordinance. Employee has a private right of action to sue in court. So if an employee is not given the hours entitled to under this ordinance, they can file a lawsuit in the court. But also, the DCBA has the authority to investigate complaints. So if anyone who is not receiving these hours and they're entitled to, the DCBA can accept complaints and investigate the situation. Next slide. And now I will turn it over to Yari, who will talk about the Financial Navigators Program.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Yareli Salavera, and I'm with the Center for Financial Empowerment, which is within the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. And today I will be talking about the Financial Navigators Program. Next slide, please. So the Financial Navigators Program is a partnership with the national nonprofit organization, Cities for Financial Empowerment. So the program was, implemented as a response to the impact that COVID-19 had on everyone's finances. And as we saw during the last, 15 months, our communities were definitely impacted financially. There was a lot of confusion as to, what can be done to help them deal with their financial concerns. So we saw, employees being laid off, or maybe they were, their hours were being reduced. Some had to stop working because they were taking care either of themselves or family members, or had to take care of children because, schools were closed. So during this time, there was a lot of different agencies, county departments that were stepping up to provide assistance to our community here in LA County. And there was, since there was a lot of different resources, there was a little bit of confusion, or, people were feeling a little overwhelmed with the number of resources that were available. They were unsure as to, what the requirements were to qualify for a program. They, were a little confused as to what they needed to prioritize, what needed to get paid first, whether it's, paying for an auto payment that gets you, to work. Should I be paying for the rent, but I don't have enough, food for money? So there, a lot of people were having difficulty trying to figure out what should I be prioritizing to pay first. And there was a lot of different, information out there that was coming out through the media, friends and family. So there was definitely a lot of confusion and overwhelming of what resources were available and how to even get in contact with these agencies that were providing these resources. So this is how the Financial Navigators Program came about, and it was to make it a little bit easier for the public to get in contact or find out where these resources are and get their contact information to be able to reach them. Next slide, please. So within the Financial Navigators Program, we have financial navigators. So these navigators help you, over the phone, and we provide a structured guidance as to try to help you prioritize these financial concerns. We are trained on all the different resources that are available out to the community. We can triage your financial concerns, and definitely we will identify referrals and other resources that can help you or support you through this situation. Our services are free of charge, and they're available to anyone in LA County. Next slide, please. So during your financial session, a navigator will, ask you a few questions, trying to understand what your financial situation is. And during that session, some of the topics that we've seen that come up are, how to pay for daily expenses. How do I have a set, amount of money coming in, whether it's my part-time job or I'm receiving something from unemployment, the Department of Unemployment. How do I figure out what I need to pay? So we can talk about those things, give you a few tips of what you can do, and definitely give you numbers to agencies that can help you make a plan. Or maybe it is looking for additional income resources, supplementing the income that you're already receiving. Other things that we can talk about may be, how do I locate food? One of the things that we definitely saw last year, a lot of people were looking for food resources. They didn't know where to go, or maybe they were overwhelmed with the number of agencies that were providing the food resources, but maybe they thought that they had to qualify to receive these, that assistance or the food. So we can definitely help you locate agencies that are around your area that are providing food. Other things may be, how do you pay back debt? A lot of people were using their credit cards last year and now are in a situation where they have, the credit card company or maybe debt collectors calling them, asking or telling them that they need to pay what they owe because Otherwise, their credit will be impacted. So we can talk about these things. We can tell you, what are some of the options that you have and what organizations can help you if you're trying to negotiate the debt. If you're trying to find out if, could you have a payment plan? So we can definitely connect you to those agencies. Another thing would be, how do you plan ahead? So one of the things that we also saw last year is a lot of people, unfortunately didn't have a financial plan. Some people had savings and they, went through all their savings trying to pay for daily expenses last year for rent or whatever it was. And now their savings were exhausted. So now they're trying to get back on track. They're trying to figure out, how can I plan for the next 3 months? How can I plan for the next month, maybe? How do I start my budget? I have a certain amount of income coming in. I need to supplement the income. I don't know where this money is coming from. I need help getting a financial plan together. So we definitely can talk about that, and we can connect you to the agencies that can help you, plan ahead. So both you and the navigator will prioritize what is more important to you, what you want to address, and then we can go ahead and give you those direct referrals. Next slide, please. So before the financial navigation session is over, the navigator will make sure that we have addressed your concerns. So we talk about all the different things that you are concerned about, any financial issues that you're concerned about. Once that has been we assure that we have talked about and addressed all your concerns, we will go ahead and send you an email or a text message with all of the different referrals that we selected that we believe can assist you. So you'll have the agency name, contact number, a website. Some of them you have to apply online for the different types of programs. And, so that you can go ahead and follow up. We also have what we call next steps. And it's something that the navigator has, provided you to think about what you should do in this moment. After we get off the call, it may be, contacting if you haven't already contacted your utilities company to see what type of programs they have available at the moment to help you with the unpaid utility bills. Unfortunately, a lot of people still haven't contacted their utilities company or even maybe their landlord to let them know what's going on. So your next steps would be to do that immediately so that if there are any available resources directly from the company that you have utilities with before you go on and try to get additional assistance. If for some reason we get off the phone and you think, oh, I didn't mention I have this financial concern, I want to talk to someone about it. So you can always fill out another interest form online on our website. We'll talk about how you can sign up for the program, and then a navigator will contact you. So we definitely try to contact you within 48 hours. Our services are available in Spanish and English. Our counselors speak Spanish and English. And we also work with the translating services to be able to assist the public with other languages as well. Next slide. So how do you sign up for the service? Remember, the service is free. All of our information or services from our department are free. Your first option is to go on our website and find the Financial Navigators link on there and complete a short interest form. So this interest form will ask you for your name, your phone number or an email address, and in order for us to contact you. You will then receive a link that will ask you to fill out an intake form. So these are just a few additional questions that we want to, capture before we give you a call. Now, within that intake form, we also want to make sure that we have consent, that you have consented to receive our service. And now, if you don't fill out the intake form, it's not a requirement, and it's okay. We will still give you a call, and we will ask you those questions during the session. It does speed up the process a little bit if you do fill out the intake form and give consent prior to a navigator contacting you. The second option would be if you need assistance in filling out the interest form for whatever reason, you don't have internet or you're having an issue online filling it out, or maybe, you speak a different language, and you can't, understand the form, you can always contact our counselors at 1-800-593-8222 and select the Financial Navigators option. The counselor can only help you fill out the form. They are not financial navigators, so your session will not be held at that time. So once you fill out the interest form, then within 48 hours, a financial navigator will give you a call. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little information, this is what the interest form looks like. This is the first, the top of the page just gives you information on what the program is, what to expect during your session, the different topics that can be discussed during your session. Next slide. And here we have, again, some of the fields that we need is your name, your last name, a phone number, an email address. And we also have a callback preference time. So you can select, to have you call you back within, between 8 and 12, or, 12 to 5, 12 to 4:30. We're only open from 8 to 4:30 in the afternoon. So, you select the time that you want to get a call back, and our navigators will contact you within your preferred time. Next slide. And this is what you receive, stating that, thank you for submitting it, and that you will receive a link to the intake form. Next slide, please. And again, you don't have to complete the intake form prior to someone calling you, but it does speed up the process if you give consent. Next slide. So this is the consent. So what does the consent mean? So the consent means that you are agreeing to receive the service, and that we as financial navigators, the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, is providing you the service to the best of our knowledge. And all the information that you provide is not shared with anyone. It's confidential information that stays with us, and obviously with our partnering agency, the Cities for Financial Empowerment. So you don't have to worry about your information being, giving out to anybody else, because that's not what we do. It stays here with our department. So again, you don't have to give consent prior to us giving you a call, but we do recommend that you do give consent, fill out the intake form, because it does speed up the process when we give you a call, just to avoid any issues when we're trying to send you the consent via email or a text message. Sometimes, we have consumers who say that they don't see it, they're not getting it. So it's a good idea to give consent before we give you a call. Next slide. So when should you contact a financial navigator? So, if you're having any of the following financial concerns, again, this is just a short list, examples of things. But, some of the things that we definitely see is, again, we're talking about how can you get support of managing debt? We have agencies that can definitely help you. Your options are, sometimes is to negotiate how much, you're willing to pay. Sometimes, maybe someone has been sued. What are your options at that point? So we can definitely give you some information and direct you to the agencies that can help you with that. Sometimes people are looking for financial assistance. Unfortunately, our department, we do not provide the actual cash assistance, but we have a list of agencies that are providing, whether it be emergency loans or actually have some cash assistance programs. And we definitely want to make sure that you're connected to those if that's what you're looking for. And the emergency loans that we're talking about, some of these organizations are not, charging any fees or any interest on these loans. So they're definitely a good option if you think that you would benefit from the emergency loan. Also, sometimes we have, like I mentioned before, people are now wanting to plan ahead. How do I plan for the next 2 or 3 months? How do I pay down debt? How do I start saving again? How do I improve my credit? How do I get rid of this debt? If you're trying to get a financial plan together, we definitely have agencies, financial counseling, coaching agencies that can help you with that, okay? Sometimes you're looking for child services. A huge thing was, obviously when people were able to maybe go back to work, one of the things was, how can I go back to work if my children are being homeschooled? I don't have childcare. And we have some agencies that, provide you with information on, if they're having, where you can find childcare, and also, if there's reduced programs for childcare, or maybe even free childcare. Other things might be you're, maybe looking for a job. You're not able to go back to your job, whether because they completely closed down the company you worked for, and now you're looking to see what else, what is out there, or maybe you're looking to see changing a career path. A lot of people definitely took this opportunity to do that. So we do have agencies that can provide you with job search and skill building. So that's something that you're definitely interested in. So again, these are just some of the things that we cover. There's, financial concerns. There's a big list of that. But if you find yourself, with any financial concern and are looking for different agencies or programs that can provide you one-on-one assistance, definitely contact the Financial Navigators Program, because we can definitely direct you to the right agency. Next slide, please. So again, if you do have any questions about the program, or you're interested in filling out an interest form to have a session with the Financial Navigator, please go to our website. You can always reach me by email at yarelis.talavera at dcba.lacounty.gov, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you. So go ahead and send it over to Elena.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Here's our contact information for Wage and also Financial Navigator for Yari. You're welcome to reach us at the addresses over here, and also you can contact our office by the 1-800 number. We did receive some questions, and I'll go ahead and answer them as we go. So we have a question as far as how much is the current minimum wage. So current minimum wage for unincorporated LA County and for City of Santa Monica, for large employers 26 or more, it is $15. And for small employer 25 or less employees, it is $14.25. There will be an increase this July 1st for small employers to $15. The large employers will not have an increase and will line up with small employers to $15. I hope this answered your question. We have another question asking about the poster or about the COVID-19 vaccine access leave. The poster will be available on our website at dcba.lacounty.gov/minimum wage. Hopefully either by the end of this week or next week, we will have the poster available. Again, the website it'll be available is dcba.lacounty.gov/minimum wage. And we have another question where they're asking if W-9 employees are considered independent contractors, and would they be exempt from the ordinance? This is a kind of a tough question for me to answer. I'm not very familiar with the W-9 form. In general, yes, independent contractors are exempt from these ordinances. The best place to contact it would be either the DLSE, the Department of Labor Standards Enforcement, or the EDD, where an employee can go through like a test, fill out an application, and answer questions where it'll be determined if they are considered an independent contractor or not. Those are all the questions. I have a question from Stephanie, and Stephanie, I will answer to your question. I will email you. I have your email address, and I will email you to get more information about your question. We have another question. Somebody is asking if they run a child care and they have one employee, if they have to pay the minimum wage still applies. Yes. Whether you have one employee, 2 employee, 25 employee, if the job location is in the unincorporated LA County area, then the county minimum wage ordinance applies. If it's one employee, again, the current minimum wage is $14.25, and there will be an increase this July 1st to $15. So we have another question where it's being asked, what about the incorporated areas in LA County? So incorporated cities in LA County, if that city has their own minimum wage ordinance, that city must follow their city's minimum wage ordinance. For example, City of Pasadena, they have their minimum wage ordinance, so they have to follow City of Pasadena's minimum wage ordinance. If your city does not have a minimum wage ordinance, then you must follow the state minimum wage, State of California minimum wage. Any other questions, Kevin? Thank you, everyone. It looks like we don't have any more questions. Thank you for joining us today. Again, this webinar, it was recorded and will be available on our YouTube page if you want to go look at it. Again, if you come up with questions, we are happy to receive your questions at these email addresses. Thank you again.